What if the secret to a thriving workplace wasn't just KPIs and strategy decks, but confetti? Today's guest is on a mission to transform workplace culture from inside out, one joyful moment at a time. He is the creator of the Confetti Culture Playbook, a former fitness industry leader turned culture crusader, and a passionate believer that culture is a feeling, not a buzzword. His approach is practical, powerful, and a whole lot of playful. You're going to love it. Get ready to rethink how you lead, celebrate, and connect with your team. Welcome to the Yes Show, the one, the only James Ferguson. Welcome to the Yes Show. I'm your host, Christine Trippy. Each week, we'll explore the life-changing power of saying yes, along with hotel leadership made easy. Get ready for inspiration, fun, and sweet hospitality. Let's go. Welcome, James.
Woo! Let's go.
I've been saving that ever since you sent it to me.
I'm so glad. It's good to have it handy.
Yes, it sure is. You always need confetti with
Yeah,
you.
it's needed
Yes.
for sure.
Yes. Well, James, let's begin with your big yes. You said yes to sharing your cancer journey in your keynotes. Tell us a little bit about more about that and about your journey and why you decided to start sharing it.
So yeah, I said yes to that. It was something that was a little bit scary, right? It's a
Mhm.
personal experience, a vulnerable experience, and
Very.
nobody wants to like naturally get up on stage and start crying in front of people. But I was actually speaking at an event in Wisconsin with Ryan, our friend,
Oh, yes.
and we were talking about it because he had just watched me speak, and I was asking for some advice, and he's like, dude, you don't throw confetti, but you're the confetti guy, and you don't share your journey, which is signature to you. And I was like, why did I not think of that? Right? It's just like a no-brainer, right? But sometimes we get so focused on adding value and giving as much information as
Yes.
we can that we forget like the stories are what really connect to the audience and all that. So I said yes to that process and learned how to share that story in a way that was impactful from like a leadership driven perspective, personal development perspective. But again, also correlates to culture and everything else I speak on. So it has absolutely transformed my life, my keynotes, my everything, because now I'm relating on a level that I just wasn't before. I'm able to correlate how confetti was a tool to celebrate and is now a symbol of hope to me through my journey. And yeah, I would just encourage those listening that whatever feels scary, that feels vulnerable, that maybe isn't something you want to share, could be the one thing that unlocks the potential or the transformation that they need to the people around you, whether that's an audience, whether that's your team, whether it's your family, your friends.
Hmm.
That yes, that sharing could be the thing that changes your life or someone else's.
Yes, I love that. A couple of things on this. Now, one, how are you? How's your health? How are you doing?
Good, good. Yeah, I've been in remission for 4 years now. They say the 5 year mark is the one, so
Is the
we're holding out hope that stays the way it is.
Yes, I'm very confident. I'm very confident. You're such an inspiration with all of that and just everything you went through. It's quite a journey that you did go through. Then the next thing I want to touch on with that is what I love that you said a key word. You said you asked Ryan for advice.
Mm.
Now, this is something for all leaders out there to take in mind. Often we say we would like feedback. Do you have any feedback for me? But really, when you ask somebody, do you have feedback for me? It puts them in an uncomfortable position. But when you ask somebody for advice, what would you do differently? Now you
Mhm.
can tap into not what I'm doing wrong, but where their experience can help guide you to the next stage. I think Ryan was more generous with the actual feedback that can work because you asked for advice, not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, a lot of times we can hear feedback and take it as criticism. But if we have an open mindset, a growth mindset to being willing to hear what adjustments we can make, it then becomes advice, even if we don't ask for it specifically. So,
Right.
yeah, I think it's all about how you approach it and receive it. And yeah, it was such a simple thing that
Yes.
yeah, again, just transformed everything that's happening now. So grateful
Love
for
it.
him, but grateful that I took the initiative to say yes.
Right. And to hear the feedback and the advice. Yes. I love
Yep.
it. That's so cool. I love and I think that you two were together because I referred you both, which is
You
so
were, yeah.
cool.
Oh, yeah. It is so cool. Yeah, it absolutely is how it happened. Yep.
Now, you have inspired countless leaders to celebrate and elevate others. But what is a time you were celebrated that made you feel valued?
Sometimes as leaders, we're doing all this stuff. We're showing up consistently. We're bringing the energy. We're putting in the long hours, all this stuff, and we just don't see the reward. We just don't see the impact we're having. And
Hmm.
sometimes it can happen subtly. I'm going to give two examples of this, but these things are way more meaningful than some of the accolades or big moments that I've had in my career. As a former GM, again, kind of turning around a team, one of the most meaningful celebrations that I've had was two. One was one day when I walked in, I saw confetti that was thrown the day before in the shape of a heart.
Wow.
The houseman was cleaning up the area. We must not have cleaned it up immediately. And instead of taking it and throwing it away, he made it into a heart. And in that moment, at that time, in that building process of that team, it showed me that what I was doing was working, that it mattered, that it was impactful, and
Mhm.
that although that was like a subtle, small thing, it showed me that, and that was super rewarding. So again, there was no like group saying "yay." It was
Yeah.
just me and that pile of confetti, but it showed me that what I was doing was going well. And then the other thing, which happened to be for my birthday with another group, was that I got a T-shirt with confetti all over it. So they wound up buying a
Yeah.
T-shirt and gluing confetti pieces all over it, and it was the most thoughtful gift I've ever gotten.
Hmm.
And you think a guy with confetti, like easy, just get him anything confetti and it works. But most people don't do that. They don't do the easy thing. They think of something else.
Hmm.
And anyway, they took hours to put this thing together. And, it just showed me that the work I do matters, that the team is being impacted in a positive way, that they see and feel the difference and are part of that growth. And those kind of things, those subtle things that we don't always take a moment to appreciate or celebrate, those are the ones that are the most rewarding to me because, it's when you least expect it and it's when you need it the most.
Yeah, it's always when you least expect it when you need it the most. Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what did the moment teach you about recognition? But that might be it. But in thinking about that question in general, did you learn something specifically about recognition that you didn't maybe think about before?
Well, I think, a lot of leaders struggle with recognition, right? They just don't have the time. A lot of times that's like the number one reason it doesn't happen with somebody's team, or they just say, I shouldn't have to recognize you for that.
Right.
But I think it just proved my inner belief that celebration is the key to unlocking a great culture and a great team. And, it's something obviously that I do every day and throughout the day with my teams. And those moments just, again, reassured me. We all have that like imposter syndrome, like, is what I'm doing right? Is it going to make a difference? All these things. And again, when you're doing it every day, you don't see the growth, like going to the gym, brushing your teeth, you're not going to see the impact. But it's moments like that that just teach you, like, yes, stay on course. What you're doing is good. Keep doing that.
Yes.
It's making a positive difference, and keep showing up.
Yes, I love it. This just makes me think of something else too. Just this weekend, I was thinking about my Auntie Candy, and there was something I was thinking about her that I've always thought about. And I'll just say it. She and her husband took in my grandpa way back, way, way, way back, and he always lived with her. As long as I was alive, I always knew my grandpa lived with my Auntie Candy, and I've always thought, what a wonderful family that they took him in. It never seemed like an inconvenience. I never heard a complaint. He always had this warm family with kids to be around. And I literally have goosebumps thinking about it. And I've always thought how much I admired her for being so selfless and still living such a big, wonderful life. With nobody that didn't hold her back from anything. And so I'm like, I've never voiced this to my Auntie Candy. And that is like wrapping a gift and never giving it to somebody. So
It's
it's
absolutely
taking
true.
this most simple thought of kindness and sharing it. It's just sharing it.
Yeah, and I think we all struggle with that, right? We think these things in our head on a
Mhm.
daily basis, right? Like, oh, I
Yes.
appreciate this person. Oh my gosh, that was so great. But then we don't send the message or the text or write the letter or email them or call them or whatever. And yeah, I encourage you guys listening, like that is what it's all about. There's no timetable for when a thank you is good or if it's any good anymore. Like, sharing your gratitude, your appreciation for someone for something that they did specifically, there's always value in that. And
Mhm.
again, to your point, whether it was when you were 14 years old or
Yeah.
now, it doesn't matter because it will impact them in a positive way, and help them realize that what they did mattered and impacted you and made you think
Mhm.
different. And again, sometimes we don't realize the ripple effect of what we're doing around
Right.
us. But yeah, I encourage everyone to share that gratitude more often than not.
Yes.
It'll change
So
your life.
that is action item number one. I always end the show with action items, but I'm just going to point that out right now. Take one thing, think of one person today to send some confetti, to send a text, to send a DM, or put something in the snail mail. But just reach out to somebody and just share that gift that you wrapped and never sent.
Yes, absolutely agree.
So if we took celebration and confetti completely off the table, how else could leaders powerfully and emotionally connect with their teams? Do you have any thoughts on that?
As a leader, it's so important to have ownership mindset and be there in the tough moments, right? In our industry, it either shapes you or or it breaks you. And I think building that trust and building those relationships happens in those moments.
Mhm.
And for me, my consistent message is resilience plus recognition equals results. And I think so often we can get so focused on the results, but it's really about those two other things. And if you take away recognition, resilience has such an immense impact on others. And while celebration is good, it's how you show up in those darker times, those tougher times that really share with your team who you are and all that. So when people call out, are you covering the shift or are you making someone else do it? Are you jumping in and cleaning the room or are you sitting in your office and checking in every 5 minutes why things aren't done? Like, when things don't go well, do you back up your team? Do they make a bad decision and you crucify them for it, or do you support them through it and coach them and guide them and give them that feedback? So I
Mm-hmm.
think you take away the recognition and the confetti, it's the resiliency that is needed, especially in our industry, that I think a lot of us struggle with, and especially as we get higher in the ladder, we think, oh, we don't need to do these things, but
Mm.
when you
Mm.
show up in those tougher times, when you're doing it hand in hand, when you're listening to your team and doing something about it, that is when you build relationships, the trust, and the things that really help you take things to the next level.
Yeah, it's the being there. It's
Yeah.
the being there for sure. Now, in your book, which I have right here on my lap,
Whoop,
one of the
whoop.
things I have underlined in here is I love the duct tape story. Do you remember what I'm talking about with the duct tape story?
Yeah, I think it was like a team building thing that I did where they had to like balance it with their fingers, right? Is that?
Uh-huh. And then one of the things I loved here, it says they realize that any one individual is important, but collectively they are unstoppable. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember that. I don't want to read the whole excerpt, but if you wanted to share a little bit about that, learning that lesson, and the activity you did.
Yeah, so the message underlying is like it's like a hand, right? And I kind of took this from I'm a big Duke basketball fan, and Coach K talks about the fist and how that's so important, and he has his 5 pillars. But the mission behind it is basically that like each finger has its purpose, right? It's strong as itself, but you're not going to punch through anything with a finger, right? You might actually break that finger. But if you come together and you become
Oh
that
yeah.
fist, anything is possible. And so I think in the game, and again, you put me on the spot, but I'm going to go with it,
Yeah, okay.
is, you basically, I think in the game, I made people take their finger away. And then all of a sudden you have to adjust and support that thing because they were putting the role of duct tape on their finger. And when you remove someone, well, what are you going to do next? You're going to have it fall on the floor and have the operation fall apart, or you're going to make an adjustment and support the people that are left to make sure that nothing changes. And, that's what it's about as a leader is making sure that regardless of who showed up today, that we keep delivering the way that we're supposed to, and support one another through it. And if we do it together, we can be unstoppable.
Yeah. Who was it that does the fist acronym or
Coach K.
Coach
So Duke
K? I
basketball.
think
Yeah.
I've
So
heard of
he's
him.
retired now, but he was a longtime Duke basketball head coach and USA basketball coach.
I
So
love
he's got
that
some great
that
books on
analogy.
leadership as well. So yeah, definitely check him out.
I'll definitely check that out because I'm very unsporty. So I didn't know about Coach K. Also, Ryan's book, Confetti Culture, is available. And
Yeah.
it's a great book. It's a great uh, playbook, like you call it the playbook, for building your culture when you really need that help. So it's a really great resource for everybody out there. So speaking of confetti, tell us your confetti framework.
Yeah, so this is something that I've been building out more specifically. So, in the book that you just showed, I share a bunch of different things that I did to help kind of build a top workplaces culture. But now I've built out a more specific framework for managers like your listeners to really go take action and know the specific areas they should focus on. So, the thing I've learned through my journey is that throwing confetti is not for everyone. But if you follow the confetti framework, you can find the same success and not necessarily have to throw confetti ever, although I encourage it. So
Yes.
it is, again, it's confetti is an acronym. So it's celebrate often, ownership mindset, nurture trust, fueled by feedback, engage with intention, train and develop, thankfulness as a habit, and inspire daily. And if you do those 8 things, those 8 powerful principles will absolutely transform your leadership and transform your team in a positive way.
Is there any one of those sections you would want to dive in with maybe a great action item for our listeners out there?
Well, I think although we talked about celebrating, we I think we more focused on thankfulness as a habit earlier about sharing our gratitude. I want to double down on celebration. So celebrate often is something that I think we sometimes hold for luncheons and quarterly town halls
Yes.
and annual awards, which is great. But what's going to really fuel the results that you're looking for is celebrating the small wins every day, the habits that are being built. And again, I on the flip side of you, I'm a big sports guy, so everything that I talk about really does get pulled from that. And one of the things that I like to correlate it to is like in football, you got first downs and you got touchdowns. Right? Touchdowns happen a couple of times a game, but first downs happen the entire game. And if we focus on celebrating the first downs, the things that lead to the touchdown, right? That's when we start to get the results. So instead of
Yes.
only celebrating your annual award, focus on the habits that are built to get them to that place.
Hmm.
And so that happens every day. That's a decision they made. That's a challenge that they faced and made a mistake, but grew through. That's everything. And so, I really encourage you guys to really focus on nurturing and encouraging the behaviors you want to continue to see, because that every day on a compound effect will ultimately deliver the results you and your team want. And it seems so simple and unneeded sometimes, but it is
Right.
the most important thing you can do to support that growth.
I agree 100%. And this also makes me think about this. If you think of the 4 disciplines of execution, are you familiar with that? It's
Mm-hmm.
very much like if you're a Marriott property out there, if you work for Marriott Managed, we did the WIG program, Wildly Important Goals, my entire time I was there. That's the 4 disciplines of execution. Great book, great people. They talk about there's the lead and then there is the lag. The lag is your ultimate goal. So let's just say by the end of the year, you want to be at guest experience or intent to recommend of 80% in the green zone. Let's just call example. If you wait to the end of the year to celebrate, you're likely not going to get there. But
Right.
if your lead is every day, I will inspect rooms, check, have a huddle, and check my funnel. Like if you have those things, how do you win every day? And if you
Mm-hmm.
celebrate the win today, you most likely will be celebrating the win at the end. Because by the time you get to the end, it's too late to change anything. It's
Absolutely
too
agree.
late.
And yeah, well, and while I don't think you need to make some big celebration every day, one of the things I do encourage you guys to do is celebrate once a week. So one of the things that I've gotten the habit of, both through my leadership experience and also through my cancer journey, is celebrating every Friday or Friday.
Yes.
because that's when you can kind of take a moment to reflect, assess how much growth there's been, fall in love with the process, not fall in love with the celebration, right? Because you really have to remove the emotion that comes from what happened, the result, and really fall in love with the process that got you there. Because there's way
Yes.
more of that than there is of the celebration. So, every Friday, again, or Friday as I call it, that's when I do it. Find your day, whether it's Gratitude Tuesday or whatever,
Yes.
but have a day where you really do reflect and celebrate both personally and as a team.
So tell me, as a general manager, when you were a general manager, what is something that you did to build those habits and give me one of your unique Fridays?
Well, I would say that the biggest thing that helps move the needle and engages the team, I think what we struggle with as managers is, there's things like satisfaction with employees that we can't control, right? We can't control what the benefits are. I can't control how much you get paid. I can't control the perks of the company, but I can control your engagement in the sense of how you show up, how I show up, and what I nurture and encourage. So,
Mhm.
a lot of times we get focused on spending a lot of money in satisfaction where you could spend a lot less in engagement and actually drive the results you're hoping for. So, one of the things that I try to consistently do is create engagement programs around the things I needed to improve, whether it was in attendance, whether it was cleanliness, whether it was, again, just building the habits for the quarterly winners. I tried to develop programs that focused on what the desired outcome was, nurture the behaviors I want to continue to see, and then monitored and motivated them along the way. And I did that in a lot of ways with attendance. One of the things that I thought was pretty cool that I haven't often shared, I do usually on LinkedIn, but not on a podcast, is one of the things that I did was created these. I think you might have done something similar, is created these custom shoes. So
Yes, yes.
nobody really cared about or understood why people were celebrated for the quarterly winner, what the culture champion was. So I was like, I need to take my own initiative, not wait for permission or get approvals,
Mm-hmm.
just create something that's going to excite people. And so the concept was similar to, the Masters gets a green jacket, or, basketball player, football player gets a Hall of Fame jacket that's gold or whatever. It's a symbol of my accomplishment, but it's also wearable. And it's something that other people are going to see. They're going to be inspired by. I want to be the next on the list for. So I incorporated that, and it was branded based on the hotel I was at the time, but it just created this buzz around it and helped us talk more about it. And it was also cool. Like, new team members would come on and be like, why does he get to wear different shoes? And then it's a conversation. We're sharing the story. And then
Yes.
now they're like, I want to be part of it. So, something so simple as that. I mean, it cost me $80 to get custom Converses, became part of our culture. And again, it was a wearable reminder that really motivated not only the person that received them, but others around them to go build the same habits that they did.
Yeah. Now the shoes that I purchased were just green for it was my go to green, and whoever reached green, there'd be a competition for those green Nikes. But how, because I would love to actually make a custom pair. I didn't know that you can make a custom pair of Converse.
For
Yeah.
us, we use the brand, the hotel's brand colors as kind of the scheme, made that. And then, like, it was Pride, I think, as far as the actual
Oh,
like design, but we use it as a confetti like representation of the celebration we had in their honor.
love it.
And so, yeah, and then you can actually like write their name on it too, like they stitch it on the back of the shoe. So
Mhm.
it's pretty cool. Definitely worth
Love
looking
that.
into.
Well, one quick idea that came to my mind, actually, I thought of like a whole flood of them, but one that I'd love to share is we had our housekeeping incentive and appreciation board, for their inspections and whatnot. And the winner of the month not only got a financial prize and whatnot, but they got a banner for their cart that said,
Oh,
I'm
very
the
cool.
bomb.com in housekeeping. We would change up the banner
Love
for
that.
the month of X, and they would put that on the cart and they would have that down the halls and they
Yeah,
loved
wear it with pride.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah,
was
and it's
super
subtle
cool.
stuff, right? That costs you $10 on Amazon, right? And I
Yes.
think so we get so stuck on like
Hmm.
having to like have all this money to do all these things, and it doesn't take much. You just have to take the initiative. Don't wait for permission. Just go create the engagement with your team, and again, the results will follow.
Right, right. Love that. Now, if you were coaching a CEO tomorrow, not a frontline leader, what would you challenge them to change first in their approach to workplace culture?
I think any CEO focuses a lot on the top line. I think you really got to focus on the person that's creating that for you, right? So every sales leader is driving that top line. Every housekeeper is driving that top line. Every front desk agent, everyone. So I think what I would say is make sure that your team has a voice and is more at the table than typical, right? So it's usually just the CEOs, the suite, C-suite that's in the room talking about budgets, talking about the future of the company, all that stuff. I would encourage you to flip it upside down and get more people's perspective that are facing the challenges from a day-to-day basis, get their perspective, listen to them, and go do something about it, so that when you're making decisions at a larger scale, you have them in mind, you're listening to them, and you're doing what will drive the thing that you're ultimately trying to accomplish. I think sometimes we get so removed that we stop listening and we think we know everything because we did do it once and we know from there. But you know, the world changes every day. The things that they're facing changes every day, and we have to continue to listen and be involved and not let other layers of leadership prevent us from hearing those things and taking action because of it.
So ultimately, your advice to start, number one, is find a way to hear from your team members.
Yes,
Yeah, that's what you're saying,
yes, and
right?
I think a direct connection too, because again, there's layers, there's VPs, and then there's directors, and then there's managers, and there's GMs, and then there's and like a lot of times we'll have it at the property level, but that information never goes up. And
Right.
so having a way to connect the dots on that, whether it's a coffee with the CEO or a
Mhm.
breakfast or whatever, virtual or in person, I think that can add a lot of value. But listening isn't it. You have to take action because of it. And when you do that, you're going to build trust and you're going to build your business in a way that, I don't think they're seeing just yet.
Love it. Do you have any examples of how that worked for you?
You got to be able to provide a voice to the team in the way they're most comfortable. So I would do one-on-ones, which I think is probably the most valuable voluntarily. But I did do a suggestion box, and I think for those people that like don't believe you're going to change anything, aren't going to listen really, but I'll throw it in there just to see, having something like that, whether it's a virtual QR code that they submit an idea or
Mhm.
it's a physical suggestion box. Doing that again, it provides that voice right to the person that makes the decision,
Yeah.
and it removes all the layers that sometimes there's politics involved with that, right? So sometimes
Hmm.
things don't get shared up that could be really valuable. And
So
so
what
yeah, I
would
would
you
say
say to the leader, what let's call general manager even, or a higher level leader that gets some really out there suggestions? How did you handle that, or how would you advise people to handle that?
yeah, that's a good point. There's always going to be things that you consider but never actually can follow through on. I think that the biggest thing is developing the relationship with your team to communicate that
Mhm.
early and often. So one of the things that I also did in addition to those other two things is walk about every day. And that allowed me to
Yes.
say, hey, I saw your suggestion about XYZ. While we can't do that now, and here's why, I want to encourage you to give me more ideas like this. Or do you think there's an alternative that we could do that could still support what your vision is? So I think you just continue the conversation. I think having these platforms where you do one-on-ones, suggestions, whatever, if you don't
Mhm.
have a relationship with your team, then it loses its spice, it loses the trust. But if you're
Right.
consistently walking around, talking with them, celebrating that they gave you the idea, and then helping them come to maybe another realization or just encourage them to try again, I think that does a lot of good because at the end of the day, team members just want to be seen, heard, and supported. So if
Hmm.
you're actively doing that in those kind of three ways, that is going to help again build that trust. And although it's not a yes today, maybe it's an idea that they're now inspired to share later because you at least listen to them.
Say those three things that you just said to everybody so they can write it down.
Sure.
Seen.
So seen, heard, and supported, right? I think we can all point to an example or a time that we weren't seen by our leaders, by our teams, or heard by them in a time that was so impactful and we had the experience to support it. So if you can provide outlets to do that, and then support is the most important piece. It's about taking action, right? So it's great to be
Hmm.
seen and heard, but what are you going to do about it?
Right.
And that's really the piece that matters the most. You got to actively listen and then take immediate action. And if you
Right.
do that, you'll gain momentum in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I love because people have short-term memories. So I love having a board, whatever you call it, in your space, your associate spaces, that basically has things we want, wish list type of things, and then
Mm-hmm.
things we've got done. and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
you
yeah.
move them over. And that really shows, look at, here's what you've asked for, and here's where we're going. And sometimes they have to be adjusted a little bit, but this is what we've done. And that's a great visual to have in front of everybody and to use in your huddles and whatnot to keep showing that seen, heard, and support. Yeah.
Yeah, the key though with that is you have to be consistent, right? Because if
Yes.
you are really following through 1 month and then you get busy, then it's like working out. Like you could work out for 6 months and see some results, and then you eat crappy for a month and you lost all your
Hmm.
momentum. So
Yes.
you got to be consistent with it. But yeah, having that visual reminder and people can like look at it and say, "Oh, we did do that," or "We didn't do that, but here's why,"
Yeah.
is so important. I agree.
Yeah. And what you just said goes for everything. I can't tell you how many times I've seen employee of the month, and then you go and you see February's, and then it's August, and there are no March, April, May's. You're
Yeah.
only going to ruin your culture if you start something. So that's why a big caution when reading any book, Confetti Culture or any book, is to do one thing at a time. Don't try to implement everything at once because if you let it fall off, then that's going to demotivate people and you'll be worse than where you started. So,
Yeah, they'll just
employee
be
of
the
the
flavor of the
month,
month.
the suggestion box, that always starts as a great idea and ends up fizzling because nothing ever comes of it. So, yeah,
Exactly.
so definitely every what you just said about that board goes for everything you can implement. Just make sure you can consistently implement it. Yeah, love that. And the
Yep.
good thing about the board is that even if you haven't done anything in a month or so, say, here's it takes time to move the needle, and here's some of the things we've moved, and that's in front of them. So I love that. This is a big one because I get this feedback a lot too, or pushback, if you will. Many leaders feel even that celebration feels fluffy, or it feels like, oh, well, that's good for you, Christine, because you're a cheerleader. You have that kind of personality. So I'm sure you get this kind of feedback all the time. I'm just not a cheerleader type of person. What do you do? How do you speak to the data driven executive who needs that proof? How do you tee it up, and how do you influence them to see that this is strategy and it's not just fun fluff?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that's why I've kind of shifted my approach and have created those 8 powerful principles because before it was just kind of confetti and throwing in, oh, I don't want to do that. That's not me. I can't do what you do. And that's not the case. So I think, the biggest thing is just like we kicked off this call with, is just having a conversation and sharing what went well. It doesn't have to be some big to do. It doesn't have to be with confetti physically being thrown, although I, again, very highly encourage that. It's like we've all experienced in our career. We have one or two people that took the time to support us and celebrate us, but also to coach us. I think there has to be a balance of coaching and celebration. And I think sometimes we think it's always about like a party, but celebrating someone for making a decision is also celebrating someone, right? And a lot of times the reason we get phone calls at 9 p.m. at the front desk is because they're unequipped to make a decision to support that guest. It's not that they're untrained, don't care, all these things that we like to label them with. It's a lot of times based on the leader's lack of equipping of that individual. So I think having it become a strategy is about really having a lot of conversations and not waiting for a meeting to have it, not waiting
Mm-hmm.
for a one-on-one, not waiting for a monthly or a quarterly town hall to have it every day. Go see someone and say, hey, I saw your GXP response time was crazy last night, great job, because that's going to help them do it again tonight. And
Right.
so it's not some like in front of the whole group like yay, and it can be,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't need to be. It shouldn't be. It should be a
So your
conversation
way of
because that's
influence, oh, I'm so sorry.
no,
So
go ahead. You're good.
your way of influencing a higher level leader, someone running a team that thinks that that's the fluff, is to show him a non-fluffy way to do it.
Yeah, it's
That is
it's
it.
understanding that it's way more about the relationships than it is about the celebration itself.
Hmm.
And when you have and build a relationship, it's about communicating what expectations are, what we want to see more of, and celebrating that action, habit, whatever along the way. again, that builds the habits that builds the results. So it's not just celebrating the results and that feels fluffy and nice once a year, once a quarter. It's doing that through conversation every day to help people understand what's needed and help them think on their feet, right? Like, you know, telling people what to do all the time is not the way to go. You want to help them kind of identify and discover what that thing is. And so when they discover it, you celebrate it. But it's all conversational, really.
Yeah, love
So
that.
so so again, like when they're making that decision, like what would you have done in that situation? Had you not been able to call me, what would you have done? Well, I would have done this. Okay, well, what could we do a little bit differently to support a guest that maybe needed this or whatever? And it's them discovering that. And then at the end of that conversation, like, great job. Normally you would call me in this situation, but this time you figured it out, and I'm really proud of you. Like
Hmm.
that statement, that small little conversation piece
That's celebration.
is what celebration is. It again,
Yes.
it doesn't have to have some extra piece attached to it. It's that.
Right.
And if we get really comfortable as leaders at any part of the organization doing more of that and stop hiding in our office and looking at all the data and just saying, this is going well, this is not, but keep doing this or make an adjustment here, that's what it's all about. So
Yeah.
that's the strategy I would share with higher leadership, but also with every manager, director, and
Yeah.
GM as well.
One thing I share all the time, because I'll have people tell me all the time, Christine, I'm not the cheerleader. I'm not like you. That's not me. And I say, well, somebody on your team is. You might not be the rah rah, and that might not feel authentic to you. But somebody on your team is. And now you get the opportunity to make them shine for what they personally and uniquely bring to the team. I need you to be our CEO of energy at our
Right.
huddles, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
you to high five everybody in. I need you to give us the 1, 2, 3 on three, go team. You know,
Right.
there's somebody on your team that you're going to be able to make feel so special. And then when everybody knows that you're kind of a stiff, if you can be humble enough to once in a while come in a crazy hat, to once in a while do the thing, they're going to talk about that all day long. Did you see Mr. So and so do? You know, they're going to talk
Right.
about that, and that's going to leave even a more lasting impression than if I were to show up in a crazy hat because they expect me
They
to do
expect it. Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yep.
So honestly, the fact that you're not that person is almost an advantage because you've got these
Right.
two bonuses now. But there's
Right.
always a yes. You just have to not start with no.
Right.
I
Yeah, and it
love
goes
that.
back to that hand and fist, concept is like we all have our individual strengths, but if we combine them and use them to our advantage and build a team that has strengths that you don't, and then you celebrate them for it and allow them to use it to improve it, that's what it's all about.
So let me ask you this. What is a belief that you have about workplace culture that you once held, but you now disagree with it? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Mm.
I can think of something offhand. In my coaching from the heart class, I talk about 2 ways we will derail our culture with coaching, and then 7 ways to coach where people will feel invested in. And the one thing that I at one time believed in, but I will tell you right now will destroy your culture, and that is coaching with the Oreo cookie method.
The cookie
And
method. I've
do you
never
know
heard of
the
this.
you oh okay, the
Uh-uh.
Oreo cookie, or you may have heard it the sandwich method?
Mm-mm. I don't know why I haven't heard it.
Oh,
Sounds
that's so
delicious
funny.
though.
Oh, okay, so the Oreo cookie or sandwich method, if you haven't heard this out there, my friends, is give a compliment. Once I say it, you're going to know it. Give a compliment,
Oh,
give the criticism, and then give a compliment.
oh yeah, I hate that. That doesn't work.
That doesn't work. No, why would you say it doesn't work?
Well, I think because we're all taught it, we know what we're getting when we're getting it, right? So then but you get more focused on the thing that you didn't like to hear, and then you don't even realize because you feel like it's an intentional buffer.
Right.
Um,
One of the things I
yeah.
ask my people to say, and if you're out there listening, I'm asking you right now, have you ever been given a compliment and you're just like holding your breath, going, and they look at you like, oh no, that's it. And you're like waiting for the bad part, right? We're
Hmm.
all like that because we were brought up on the Oreo
Yeah.
cookie method. But like you said, people are smarter than an Oreo cookie. So now the only thing you have done is ruin every genuine compliment because now they're
Yeah,
just
because they
waiting.
always think it's not true. Yeah, yeah, it's very valid. I think I've thought of one, but building a culture, you want to build the right team and recruit the right people and all that. And I think in the beginning of my career, I was a real stickler for interviewing, and I would
Oh,
ask like very specific questions that I would never deviate from. Like it was like kind of like my one-on-ones. Like we all have like a template or a process that we use.
yes, yes.
Um, I have gotten far away from what I used to do because it was very rigid. It felt uncomfortable. It felt like I was in power and they were, answering to me. So what I've changed is, and it's so important to do this, is I think so often we look at resumes and what they've done and how long they've done it and
Hmm.
where they've done it. Um, but the one thing that you can figure out pretty quick just through a conversation is their purpose and their passion behind it, right? You can ask some questions just generally to figure
Yes.
that out. So I would always say hire someone who has a passion and a purpose because you can teach them everything else. I used to go the opposite way and say you have to have this and you have to say that and you have to blah blah
Yeah.
blah, know what your strengths and weaknesses are and all these things. And it's like I remember one time an employee who was I was on like phone doing it and they're like, well, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And I was like, um,
Oh,
and it's
I
like,
love
so I'm over
that.
here being rigid about, these things, like they have to have these answers. And it's like, well, what are the answers for you? And it's like, oh, well, maybe those don't matter as much as I thought they mattered. So, yeah, to your listeners, I would say, find a way to feel their energy, their passion. And if it lies within what you're hiring for, hire them for it, even if they don't have the experience. And if it's not, you have another position that you think they're better for, then find a way to put them in that. Because when you get people driven with the right energy and the right passion behind something, they'll learn it quick and they'll make a positive impact even faster.
Yes, yes, that's such a good one. Such a good one. Because you know what? When you're growing up as a leader and all of a sudden you're the front desk manager and you have to interview, you don't heck know. You Google if you had Google at the time. I didn't even have Google at the time, but you read a book and it said you have to ask these questions. So you just do it because you don't know how to interview. You don't know what you're looking for. You're
Right.
faking it too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
that's
it's like
why I
anything,
let
you learn along the way, right? You just,
yeah.
you make adjustments.
I let my daughter know, she's quite a few years now out of college, but that most people who are interviewing you are as nervous as you are because they don't want to look like a fraud, like they don't know how to interview.
Right. No,
So
it's so true.
keep that in mind as well. If the Confetti Culture Playbook had a sequel, what would it be called and what new theme would you want to explore?
So there is one and it's being written right now. And
Oh,
no
exciting.
one's heard
Wait,
it yet.
everybody, we're getting the scoop live here at the Yes Show.
We are. So, going back to what I kicked off with, sharing my cancer journey,
Okay.
this book is going to be called Seek the Good and Celebrate. It's all about how that mantra that got me through cancer, again, directly applies to us personally, professionally, and,
Mm.
as leaders. And so, yeah, that my hope is for it to be released probably this time next year. It is in progress. I have one fourth of it done.
That's exciting. You're already one fourth
Hmm.
done. I
Yep.
love this. This is a great topic, and a lot of people need to read it, need to hear it. All right, so I know we kind of touched on this, but just I'd love to set this home for the people who don't think that they're creative. If someone out there is thinking, I'm not creative, I can never come up with this kind of stuff, what would you say to help them unlock their inner culture champion? Is there any one like,
Yeah, hire Christine or hire me.
yes?
You don't have to do it. We'll do it.
Which is
No,
very
I
true.
think
If
I
you
think I
don't have the talent for it, you can outsource that. Let someone else
absolutely. There's
clear
nothing
your
wrong with that.
plate. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely one thing you should take away is yeah, you
Yeah.
don't have to be Superman, Superwoman on everything. Sometimes when you're doing a small business, you do have a lot of hats and you have to do it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the other thing is just sometimes it just takes the reps, right? Like, like anything, right? When we first started tying our shoes or walking, like we weren't good at it, but after 6 months, we could walk on our own. And I think, some people may not be naturally creative, but there's a lot of tools out now that you can learn about and practice and get good at. And I think for
Mhm.
me, like I know you use it, Canva is a great resource,
Yes.
right? They have a lot of templates that you can just use but again, like anything, when I started, if you saw what I created, 2 years ago with Canva and what I'm making now, it's completely different because I kept building off of what I was doing and customizing and trying things and all that stuff. So, um, yeah, I would say if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. Maybe outsource it. But if you think there's something there and you want to learn, then keep trying and you'll get better over time.
You may or may not know, at the end of every show, I ask you a question from our previous guest, and then you'll give us one for our next guest. Are you ready for your one question?
I am. Let's see what it is.
I love this question. Okay, this is from Barb Betts, and the question is, what relationship, she is a relationship expert, by the way, what relationship did your last big opportunity come from? Because says like that every opportunity in your life comes from a connection you have. So, what
Mm.
relationship did your last big opportunity come from?
I It's funny because we keep going back to it, but I would say that conversation with Ryan at that gig
Yeah.
um, just set up all the opportunities that have happened since. And so if that conversation, that relationship didn't exist, it may have taken me a couple more years to realize, hey, you're the confetti man, throw the confetti, share your story. And it seems so silly, but yeah, I would say, he's been a great resource, and so have you. I think for those that are listening, sometimes people that are really successful, like yourself, like Ryan, who are maybe a couple steps ahead of you in your journey versus theirs, we kind of like are scared to ask for help or ask questions or reach out and have a coffee. But as I learned with you and I learned with him, like you're very receptive. You're willing to share. You're willing to support. And I think sometimes we're our own preventers of that. And if we just reach out, like we don't know what's possible. So
Right.
I think both our relationship and his came from like a LinkedIn DM. And
Mm-hmm.
now I value our relationships and the things that you share with me and our conversations. And so, yeah, I would say that convo has led to where I'm at now. And yeah, I'm excited to take it to the next level.
Yeah, I love that so much too. And it's funny. I love thinking about this question. This question's been one of my favorites, because I talk about my 50 cups of coffee challenge, having coffee chats, and I can tell you that there's been almost every coffee chat I've had, some kind of opportunities come from. So it
Mm,
really is about your connections and the relationships you build in life that lead to those opportunities out there. And so, even if you're thinking right now that you're looking for a new position, it's about your exposure and
hmm.
your relationships, not
Yeah, you're one
not how great
relationship
your
away from
web.
changing your life.
Yes,
Yeah, it's so true.
yes, I love the way you just put that. You're one relationship away. Well, how did you just say that?
Yeah, I said you're one relationship away from changing your life.
Yeah, exactly that. And so that if you're looking for a new job, if you're looking for a new opportunity, if you're looking to learn something, a relationship is going to get you there faster than anything. Yeah.
100%.
Did you think of your
My turn.
question? Yes.
I did.
Okay.
Okay, so the question is for the next person is one of the things that I do in my keynotes is challenge the people in the room to look at a difficult situation and seek the good within it.
Oh
One of
yeah.
the things that happened in my journey is in the first week of chemo, I wound up passing out and going to the hospital. And a couple hours later, I was back in that same hospital because my daughter was born. And
Oh,
so a day that was one of the worst of my life became one of the best of my life. And it was because of that perspective that everything changed. So you obviously don't have to say all of that, but I'm sharing that for your listeners. But
right.
the question for them would be, what is a recent difficult situation that you have faced? And what was the good thing that came from it? And then I
Hmm.
encourage you to celebrate that.
Yes, I love that question. Fantastic. I love that. And if you're out there listening and you want to share your answer, you can DM, you know how to reach out to me. I've got it all in the show notes. You can DM James as well and share it with him. His information will be in the show notes too. So James, I love every time we have a conversation.
Me too.
I love your color. I love your confettis. I love everything about you and your brand. I'm wearing your wristband today. Yes. So share with everybody where they can get more James in their life and more confetti.
Sounds good. So yeah, I would say LinkedIn is definitely a great spot. I post mostly every day. So there's always insights and ideas and case studies and things that I share there. So hit me there for that. And then if you want to learn more about my book or speaking or anything like that, you can go to my website, the confetticultureplaybook.com.
Love it. And I'll have all that in the show notes for everybody. Now, real quickly, let's tee up some of those action items. One of them was to reach out to somebody today and share some appreciation. That gift
Yes.
you wrapped that never gave. So share some
Yep.
appreciation. One was to be seen, heard, and support. If you're starting your culture, you really want to change that. Think about how you can be share with your team members to be seen, heard, and support. So how can you see them? By getting out and walking around. How can you hear them? By having ways they can share feedback and ideas, and then
Yep.
support them. Actually take the action.
Again, I would just encourage you guys to, celebrate every day and focus on the first downs, the habits that are being built that deliver the results down the road, because that's the key to your success. That's something that we can all do, and we can do it right now.
Awesome. I love that. And ask for advice, not feedback. And
Yes.
get
Yes. Yes.
rid of the Oreo cookie method.
Yeah.
All right, James, I love you so much. Thank you so much for your valuable time and being here to enlighten and celebrate our listeners. Thank you so much for saying yes.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you.
That's a wrap for today's show. Say yes to taking action and changing the world one yes at a time. And oh, my friend, will you say yes to review, like, and subscribe? The more yeses you give, the more juicy goodness I can bring to all of you wise pineapples. Cool or cool?